So in order to handle event deletion, let's add another new route here in this register routes function here. And that route should handle incoming delete requests that are sent to /events and then again targeting a specific event that should be deleted. Well, and now we of course also need another request handler in the routes events go file, which I'll name delete event, where I'll get my gin context as always. So this parameter here. So we can paste this in here. And where, as a first step, I need to get my ID. So the ID of the event that should be deleted. Hence, we can also copy and paste this logic here from update event. Next, I want to check whether that event exists, and therefore we can also copy that logic from update event where I fetch an event by ID. So that can also be copied down there. And we could outsource that logic into some shared function, but since I'm really only using it in these two functions here, I'm fine with copy and pasting. So now at this point, we got the event ID and we know that the event exists. Now we can delete it. And for that, we can again go to the models folder and then there the event.go file and create a new method called delete, which should be called on an existing event. Hence, I'll add this receiver argument as always. And then in here, we want to send a database query to the database that deletes an event with a certain ID. So for that, I'll again create a query here, which is pretty straightforward. It is a simple delete statement where I want to delete something from the events table, and that something is the row where the ID is equal to some predefined ID, which will be injected in a safe way, as before. As before, I'll also prepare this statement here with the prepare method on this DB handle. So I pass query to it, and I get back my prepared statement and potentially an error. So of course, as always, we check whether the error is not nil, in which case I'll return it. And hence the return type of delete is error. So this here must be added. And if we make it past this if check, I'll defer closing that statement because that should always be done. And then we can use this statement and execute it and now pass that value for the ID that is required by that statement to it. So here, that is simply that event ID, like this. Now we will get back a result and potentially an error, and I don't care about the result, so I will use this underscore and instead simply return that error. So either nil or the actual error we got. And that then allows us to go back to the routes here and the events go file in there. And here we can now actually use and store the event we get back from getEventById. But since this now is a new variable, we must use that operator with colon equals sign. And then we can use this event to call delete. So this delete method which we just worked on. Now this may yield an error, so we should check for this. And if the error is not nil, I want to send back an error response. So I'll copy this code here and send back such an error response where I will say could not delete the event. But if we got no error, I will send back a success response with the OK status code, where I will also quickly create such a map with a message key where the message is event deleted successfully. And therefore now we should also be able to delete events. At least if we go back to routes.go and set this newly added delete event function as a request handler function for this route. With that, if we run our server again, and we start by getting all events, like this, we can see that we have 2 events here. But if I now add a new file here, delete event, like this, Then here we can send a delete request to HTTP localhost 8080/events/ a valid ID. So 1, for example, to delete this first event here. And that's already all. We don't need to attach any extra data because none is needed here, and hence this should do the trick. If we send this request, we should get this success message. If I then send it again for the same event ID, we instead get the message that the event wasn't found, which is a good indicator that it was deleted. But to be sure, we can now also get all events again, and there we now only get the event with ID 2, because we deleted the one with ID 1.